Most people think food delivery is one of the safest side jobs you can have. You pick up an order, drive to the address, drop it off, then move on to the next delivery. Most nights, that's exactly how it goes, until one delivery changed everything. This happened to me in the fall of 2024. I was 26 years old and working 2 jobs. During the day, I worked at a warehouse. At night, I delivered food to make a little extra money. The pay wasn't amazing, but on weekends, the tips could be surprisingly good. Friday nights were always the busiest. People ordered everything: pizza, burgers, Chinese food. Sometimes I'd barely have time to get back into my car before another order appeared. That Friday started like every other shift. Around 6 in the evening, I logged into the delivery app and started driving. For the next 5 hours, everything was completely normal. Families ordering dinner, college students wanting fast food, late-night workers grabbing something before heading home. By 11:30, I was thinking about ending my shift. I was tired, my gas tank was nearly empty, and I had work again the next morning. Then, a new order appeared. The payout caught my attention immediately. $38 for a single delivery. That was easily the biggest order I'd seen all week. The restaurant was only 5 minutes away. The customer had already tipped $25 before I'd even accepted the order. I didn't hesitate. I tapped accept. The pickup was from a small, family-owned Italian restaurant on the edge of town. The staff handed me 2 large paper bags and a drink carrier. The receipt showed enough food for 4 people: garlic bread, pasta, salads, desserts. Definitely not a cheap meal. I placed everything carefully inside my insulated delivery bag and started the GPS. The address looked unfamiliar. It was somewhere outside town, about 25 minutes away. That wasn't unusual. People in rural areas ordered food all the time. As I drove farther from town, the streetlights slowly disappeared. Then the neighborhoods disappeared. Eventually, there were only trees on both sides of the road. My GPS instructed me to turn onto an old county road I'd never driven before. The pavement ended almost immediately. Now I was driving on gravel. The farther I went, the worse the signal on my phone became. The GPS screen froze twice before catching up again. Rain had started falling lightly. Not enough to make driving dangerous. Just enough to make the windshield constantly hiss beneath the wipers. I checked the delivery instructions while stopped at a small intersection. They were surprisingly short. Leave at front door. Nothing else. No gate code. No landmarks. No special requests. Just leave at front door. About 10 minutes later, the GPS announced, "You have arrived." I slowed the car. There, about 50 yards ahead, was an old farmhouse sitting by itself. Its white paint had faded years ago. The front porch sagged slightly. One small porch light glowed above the entrance. Everything else was completely dark. No cars, no lights inside, no neighboring houses. Nothing. Just the farmhouse, standing alone in the middle of the trees. I parked in front of the house and turned off the engine. The silence hit me immediately. No traffic, no dogs barking, not even the sound of insects. The only thing I could hear was the rain tapping softly against my windshield. I checked the app one more time. The address matched. The order was still active. Everything looked normal. I grabbed the delivery bag and walked toward the porch. The old wooden steps creaked beneath my feet. Up close, the house looked even older than I'd first thought. The windows were covered by faded curtains. The paint on the front door was cracked and peeling. I knocked 3 times. Nothing. I waited about 30 seconds. Still, nothing. I knocked again. Food delivery. Silence. I pulled out my phone and tapped call customer. The call connected almost instantly. Then, I heard a phone ringing, not through my speaker, inside the house. I froze. The ringtone echoed from somewhere deep inside. Ring. 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 Nobody answered. The call eventually disconnected. I stared at the front door. If someone was inside, why weren't they answering? I looked back at my car. For the first time that night, I had the strange feeling that I shouldn't be there. Then my phone vibrated. A new delivery instruction appeared. Please leave it at the back door. I frowned. That message hadn't been there before. I considered leaving everything on the front porch anyway. But the tip was generous. I figured the customer probably had a reason. So I walked around the side of the house. The flashlight on my phone barely cut through the darkness. Tall weeds brushed against my legs. The backyard was surrounded by thick pine trees. There wasn't a fence. There wasn't a shed. Just darkness stretching into the woods. The back porch was smaller than the front. A single wooden chair sat beside the door. It looked like it hadn't been used in years. I placed the food carefully on the ground. Just as I stood up, I noticed something. The mud around the porch was perfectly smooth. There were no footprints. Not mine. Not anyone else's. It had been raining for nearly an hour. If someone had walked to the back door recently, there should have been tracks, but there weren't any. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. I took one slow step backward, then another. I hurried back toward my car without looking behind me. Once inside, I locked the doors. I started the engine immediately. As I reached for the gear shift, something made me glance toward the house one last time. The food was gone. I hadn't seen anyone open the door. I hadn't seen anyone walk onto the porch. 1 second the bags were there. The next, they had completely disappeared. I stared for several seconds. The back porch was empty. The chair hadn't moved. The door was still closed. My heart started pounding. I shifted into drive and left as quickly as I could. About 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed, a notification from the delivery app. Customer reports. Order was never delivered. I pulled over, confused. I knew exactly where I'd left it. I even remembered seeing it disappear, thinking it had to be some kind of mistake. I tapped the map to navigate back. The loading circle spun for a few seconds. Then a message appeared on the screen. Destination not found. I stared at my phone. Destination not found. I refreshed the app. Same message. The delivery address had completely disappeared. The order was still listed as active, but where the address should have been, there was only a blank space. I thought maybe my phone had lost signal again, so I drove back toward the main road. As soon as I had service, I restarted the app. The order was still there. The customer's name was still there. The restaurant was still listed, but the address was gone. I called driver support. After waiting on hold for several minutes, a representative finally answered. I explained everything. The farmhouse, the phone ringing inside, the missing food, the notification saying it hadn't been delivered. There was a long pause. Then the representative said something that immediately made my stomach tighten. I'm sorry, sir, but we don't have any record of an address matching what you're describing. I frowned. What do you mean? I just delivered there. She asked me to read the address back. I looked at my screen. There wasn't one, just the customer's first name and the order number. She placed me on hold again. When she returned, her voice sounded confused. According to our system, the order was canceled before pickup. I almost laughed. Canceled? I picked up the food. I drove 25 minutes. I left it at the house. Another pause. Then she quietly said, "Our records don't show that you ever left the restaurant." I felt my grip tighten around the steering wheel. What? The GPS attached to your account shows your vehicle never reached the delivery location. I looked through my windshield. Rain continued falling. My gas gauge had dropped almost to empty. I knew where I'd been. I knew what I'd seen. None of this made any sense. The representative apologized again and told me I would still receive full payment for the delivery. Before hanging up, I asked one last question. If the order was canceled before pickup, who placed it? Silence. Then she answered, "We don't have that information." The call ended. I sat there for several minutes, trying to convince myself there had to be a logical explanation. A GPS error, a software bug, anything. But one question kept bothering me. If the order had supposedly never existed, then who answered the phone inside that house? Curiosity got the better of me. The next afternoon, I drove back to the same county road. I was sure I could find the farmhouse again. The gravel road was exactly where I remembered it. The old wooden sign at the entrance was still there. Even the sharp bend in the road looked familiar. But after driving for nearly 20 minutes, I couldn't find the house. There was no driveway, no porch light, no mailbox, nothing. Only trees stretching in every direction. I stopped where I thought the house should have been. According to my memory, it should have been right in front of me. Instead, there was only an empty field covered in tall grass, no foundation, no tire tracks, no signs that a house had ever stood there. I never delivered food again after that night. Whenever friends ask why I quit, I usually tell them I found a better job. It's easier than telling them the truth, because every now and then, usually late at night, my phone still sends me a notification from the delivery app. It appears for only a second before disappearing. Every single time, it says exactly the same thing. Customer is waiting.